The alarm blared across the command deck of the massive space station as red lights flashed in every corner. Admiral Blake Morrison rushed through the metal corridors, his boots clicking against the floor. Something was very wrong. "What do we have?" he asked as he entered the control room. Lieutenant Emma Walsh looked up from her screen, her face pale with worry. "Sir, we have a ship moving through Zone 7. But this is impossible." Morrison walked over to the large display screen showing a map of space around their station. A small dot moved across it, but the numbers next to it made no sense. "These readings can't be right," he said, pointing at the speed measurements. "Nothing can move that fast without breaking apart." "We've checked 3 times, sir. The ship is real, and it's heading straight for us." Morrison studied the strange vessel on the screen. It looked like no ship he had ever seen before. The hull was smooth and seemed to shift colors as he watched. Sometimes it looked solid, other times it seemed to fade like smoke. "Where did it come from?" he asked. "That's the problem, sir. It just appeared. One moment our sensors showed empty space, the next moment this ship was there, moving faster than our best fighters." Morrison felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In his 30 years of service, he had seen ships from every known race in the galaxy. The tall, thin ethereals with their crystal ships. The machine-like syndicate with their perfect metal vessels. The powerful hegemony with their massive war ships. But this was something new. "Send 3 patrol ships to check it out," he ordered. "Tell them to be careful but ready for anything." "Yes, sir. Sending Patrol Group Alpha now." Morrison watched as 3 of their fastest ships left the station and moved toward the unknown vessel. Each patrol ship carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon, and their shields could stop almost any attack. "Patrol Alpha, this is Control," Walsh spoke into her microphone. "You are approaching unknown vessel. Proceed with caution." "Control, this is Patrol Leader Jackson. We see the target. It's unlike anything in our databases. The ship appears to be bending space around itself." Morrison leaned forward. "What does that mean?" "Sir, I'm not sure. The light around the ship is moving strangely. It's like looking at something underwater." The 3 patrol ships moved closer to the strange vessel. Morrison could see them on the screen, tiny dots surrounding the unknown ship. "Patrol Alpha, try to contact the vessel," Morrison ordered. "Control, we're sending standard greeting signals on all frequencies. No response so far." Minutes passed. The unknown ship continued moving forward, ignoring the patrol ships completely. "Sir," Walsh said quietly, "the ship is not slowing down. If it keeps going, it will reach the main shipping lanes in 2 hours." Morrison knew what that meant. Hundreds of cargo ships used those lanes every day. If this unknown vessel was dangerous, many innocent people could die. "Patrol Alpha, fire warning shots across the unknown vessel's path. Do not hit the ship, just show them we're serious." "Understood, Control. Firing warning shots now." Morrison watched as bright beams of energy shot from the patrol ships toward the unknown vessel. But something impossible happened. The energy beams curved away from the ship like water flowing around a rock. They didn't bounce off or get absorbed. They simply moved around it. "Did you see that?" Jackson's voice crackled over the radio. "Our weapons just bent away from the target." Morrison felt his heart beating faster. In all his years, he had never seen anything like this. "Try again, Patrol Alpha. Full power this time." "Sir, are you sure? Full power could destroy that ship." "Do it." The 3 patrol ships fired their strongest weapons at the unknown vessel. Beams of pure energy that could cut through solid metal shot toward the strange ship. But again, the impossible happened. The weapons curved around the target, leaving it completely untouched. Then something even stranger occurred. The patrol ships suddenly stopped moving. Their engines went quiet, their lights dimmed, and they began to drift in space. "Patrol Alpha, report." Morrison shouted. "Control, this is Jackson. All our systems just shut down. Engines, weapons, communications are all offline except for emergency power. We're not damaged, just turned off." Morrison stared at the screen in shock. 3 of their most advanced ships had been disabled without the unknown vessel even seeming to notice them. Then a voice filled the control room. It was calm, clear, and spoke perfect galactic standard language. "This is Captain Kate Miller aboard the vessel Elbow of Fate. I request immediate passage to the Nexus Core. This is not a threat to your ships or station." The voice belonged to a human. Morrison had dealt with humans before. They were a young species, barely space traveling for 200 years. Their ships were small and weak compared to the great powers of the galaxy. But this vessel had just disabled 3 patrol ships without firing a single weapon. Captain Miller, Morrison spoke into his microphone, you are in restricted space. Identify yourself and state your purpose. Admiral Morrison, I am Captain Kate Miller of Earth. My purpose is to reach the galactic capital and speak with the Council. I ask for safe passage. Morrison was surprised the human knew his name and rank. Captain Miller, you have disabled 3 of our ships. How do we know you're not a threat? Your ships are undamaged, Admiral. Their crews are safe. I have simply convinced their systems to take a brief rest. They will return to normal in 1 hour. Morrison looked at Walsh, who was frantically trying to contact the patrol ships. She shook her head, confirming that the ships were still offline but their crews were reporting no damage or injuries. Captain Miller, no human ship has technology capable of what you just demonstrated. Explain yourself. There was a pause before the human responded. Admiral, I represent something new. Something your galaxy has never encountered before. I am not here to fight or conquer. I am here to show you what humans can become when we stop thinking like everyone else. On the screen, the strange ship continued moving toward the heart of galactic civilization, leaving 3 disabled patrol ships drifting harmlessly in its wake. Morrison realized the galaxy was about to change forever. Captain Kate Miller's eyes opened slowly as cold air filled her lungs. The cryosleep chamber hissed and clicked around her as machines withdrew needle-thin tubes from her arms. Her body felt heavy and strange, like she had been sleeping for years. Good morning, Kate, a gentle voice said. How are you feeling? Kate sat up carefully, her muscles aching from the long sleep. Around her, the ship's walls glowed with a soft blue light. Everything looked different from when she had first stepped aboard 3 years ago back on Earth. Alice, she asked, recognizing the voice of the ship's computer. How long was I asleep? 8 months ship time, but 3 years have passed in normal space. The probability drives work differently with time, Kate. We bend the rules of physics, remember? Kate stood up slowly, holding onto the wall for support. Her reflection looked back at her from a polished metal surface. She looked the same, but something felt different. Changed. Show me what happened while I was sleeping, she said. The walls around her became transparent, showing the vast emptiness of space outside. Stars streaked past in patterns that made no sense. Some moved backward, others seemed to dance in circles. We have encountered 17 different patrol groups from various galactic powers, Alice reported. Each time, we demonstrated our capabilities without causing harm. The galaxy is very curious about us now. Kate walked to the bridge of her ship, her bare feet silent on the warm floor. The elbow of fate was unlike any vessel ever built. Its walls curved in impossible ways, and rooms seemed bigger inside than outside. The whole ship felt alive, breathing with her heartbeat. Tell me about the mission again, Kate said as she sat in the captain's chair. The seat adjusted perfectly to her body, as if it knew exactly what she needed. 3 years ago, Earth's colonies began falling to the hegemony expansion. Our leaders realized that humans could never win a normal war against the galactic powers. We are too small, too new, too weak by their standards. Kate nodded, remembering the meeting in the underground facility. Scientists and military leaders had gathered to discuss a desperate plan. Earth's best minds had discovered something amazing about human thinking. So they built this ship, Kate continued. Not to fight, but to show what humans can really do. Exactly. While other species perfected order and logic, humans learned to embrace chaos and randomness. The elbow of fate takes that human ability and makes it real in the physical world. Kate looked at her hands. They appeared normal, but she could feel something flowing through them. A connection to the ship that went deeper than any computer interface. The neural integration is complete, Alice explained, reading her thoughts. You and the ship are now linked. Your human intuition guides the probability drives. When you think something might be possible, the ship makes it happen. Kate remembered volunteering for the experiment. The scientists had explained that they needed someone willing to become part of the ship itself. Someone who could think in ways that pure logic could never achieve. My sister Lucy, Kate said suddenly. Is she safe? Earth reports that the hegemony attacks have stopped since we began our journey. It seems our presence has made the galaxy more cautious about attacking human colonies. Kate smiled, thinking of Lucy's worried face at the launch ceremony. Her little sister had always been the careful one, planning everything perfectly. Kate was the one who took crazy risks and somehow made them work. Show me how the ship works again, Kate requested. The bridge around her filled with floating displays showing equations and energy patterns. But these were not normal mathematics. The numbers seemed to shift and change as Kate looked at them. Traditional physics says certain things are impossible, Alice explained. But human thinking asks, what if they're just very unlikely? The ship takes that question and forces reality to answer it. Kate stood and walked to the main control panel. When she touched it, she could feel the ship's power flowing around them. It was like being connected to the dreams and hopes of every human who ever wondered what if. The patrol ships we just encountered, Kate said. Their weapons bent around us. How? You convinced space that hitting us was less probable than missing us. The energy beams took the path of least resistance, which happened to curve around our hull. Kate laughed, remembering her physics classes on Earth. Her teachers would have called this impossible. But humans had always been good at doing impossible things. And when we disabled their ships, you suggested to their computer systems that taking a nap would be more interesting than staying active. Since you believed it might work, it did. Kate walked to the viewing window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere ahead lay the Nexus core, the political center of the galaxy. Every major power would be waiting for her there. Are you ready for this, Alice? They're going to try everything to stop us. Kate, we represent something the galaxy has never seen before. A species that doesn't just think outside the box, but convinces the box it never existed in the first place. Kate felt the ship respond to her emotions, its hull shimmering with colors that matched her determination. She thought about Earth, about Lucy, about all the human colonies depending on her to succeed. Then let's show them what chaos can accomplish, she said. The elbow of fate surged forward, bending space and time around it like a stone thrown into still water. Behind them, disabled patrol ships drifted safely through space, their crews trying to understand what had just happened. Ahead lay the greatest challenge any human had ever faced. But Kate Miller was no ordinary human anymore. She was something new, something the ordered galaxy could never have predicted. She was proof that sometimes the impossible just needed someone crazy enough to try it. Admiral James Fletcher stood in the war room of the massive battleship terminus, staring at the largest tactical display he had ever seen. Red dots filled the screen, each one representing a powerful warship. 3 entire fleets had gathered in this empty region of space, all hunting one small human vessel. Status report, Fletcher commanded. Commander Tom Bradley looked up from his scanner station, sweat beading on his forehead. Sir, we have confirmation. The Hegemony brought their entire 7th Fleet. The Ethereal Collective has deployed their reality bender ships. The Mechanical Syndicate sent their Quantum Hunter pack. Fletcher nodded grimly. Never before had the galaxy's 3 greatest military powers worked together. The Hegemony controlled half the galaxy with their massive war machines. The Ethereals could bend space and time with their crystal technology. The Syndicate built ships that could exist in several dimensions at once. And our target? The human ship is, sir, this doesn't make sense. She's slowing down. Fletcher moved to the main viewing screen. Far ahead, a small dot moved peacefully through space. The elbow of fate looked tiny compared to the hundreds of warships surrounding it. She wants us to catch up, Fletcher realized. But why? Sir, incoming message from Ethereal Command Ship. Admiral ZYX wants to coordinate the attack. Fletcher had fought alongside the Ethereals before. Their leader was ancient and wise, with powers that could twist reality itself. If ZYX thought this human was dangerous enough to require 3 fleets, then Kate Miller was more than she appeared. Put him through. The screen flickered, showing the ghostly figure of Admiral ZYX floating in his crystal chamber. Beside him appeared General Steele of the Mechanical Syndicate, his robotic form gleaming under harsh lights. Admiral Fletcher, ZYX's voice echoed strangely. We must coordinate our strike. This human cannot be allowed to reach the Nexus core. Agreed, General Steele added, his voice flat and emotionless. Our analysis shows the human vessel operates outside known physics. It must be destroyed. Fletcher studied the tactical display again. Gentlemen, we have over 300 ships here. Surely one human captain cannot. Admiral, Commander Bradley interrupted urgently. The human ship is moving again. But sir, she's coming straight toward us. All 3 commanders watched in amazement as the elbow of fate changed course. Instead of running from the massive fleet, Kate Miller was flying directly into the middle of their formation. Is she insane? General Steele wondered aloud. Captain Miller's voice suddenly filled all 3 command centers. Admirals, I know you're here to stop me. I understand your concern. But I need you to see something first. Fletcher grabbed his communication device. Captain Miller, you are surrounded by 3 fleets. Surrender now and we will treat you fairly. Admiral Fletcher, with respect, I don't think you understand what you're dealing with. Watch carefully. The elbow of fate began to accelerate, heading straight for an asteroid field that floated between the fleets. The massive rocks were each the size of a small moon, spinning slowly through space. She's going to crash, Bradley whispered. But as they watched, something impossible happened. The asteroids began to move out of the ship's way. Not quickly or violently, but gently, as if they were politely stepping aside to let her pass. How is she doing that? ZYX demanded. Unknown, General Steele replied. Our sensors detect no tractor beams or gravitational manipulation. Kate's voice came again. The rocks aren't moving because I'm forcing them to. They're moving because I asked nicely, and they decided it was more interesting than staying still. Fletcher felt a chill run down his spine. The human was talking about asteroids as if they could make decisions. All ships, attack formation Delta 7, Fletcher ordered. Combined strike on my mark. 300 of the galaxy's most powerful warships turned their weapons toward the small human vessel. Energy cannons that could destroy planets, reality-warping beams that could erase matter from existence, and quantum torpedoes that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Fire. The combined firepower of 3 fleets struck simultaneously. Space itself seemed to tear apart as impossible amounts of energy converged on the elbow of fate. But the ship was no longer there. Where did she go? Bradley shouted, frantically checking his sensors. Behind us, General Steele reported calmly. The human ship has appeared behind our formation. Fletcher spun around to see the elbow of fate floating peacefully behind their fleet, completely undamaged. But something even stranger was happening. Their weapons, which had missed their target, were now firing in reverse, sending healing energy instead of destruction. Sir, our hull breaches from the last battle are repairing themselves, Bradley reported in amazement. The ship's armor is actually getting stronger. Kate's laughter echoed through the communication system. Gentlemen, you're still thinking in straight lines. My ship doesn't dodge your attacks, it convinces your weapons that missing would be more fun than hitting. Fletcher stared as his mighty battleship's hull began to shine like new. Battle damage from dozens of previous fights was disappearing as the reversed energy beams healed everything they touched. This is impossible, ZYX whispered. Admiral ZYX, you've spent centuries perfecting the art of bending reality, Kate replied. But you still follow rules. Humans don't always bother with rules. We just ask reality if it wants to try something different today. General Steele's mechanical voice carried a note of confusion. Our tactical computers cannot calculate a response to this situation. The parameters are beyond logical analysis. That's because logic isn't the only way to solve problems, Kate explained patiently. Sometimes you have to embrace chaos and see where it takes you. Fletcher watched as the elbow of fate began moving away from their fleets, heading once again toward the galactic capital. Their weapons had not only failed to stop her, but had somehow made her journey easier. Should we pursue? Bradley asked quietly. Fletcher looked at the tactical display, showing 3 fleets of confused and frustrated commanders. For the first time in his career, he had no idea what to do next. No, he said finally. I think we need to see where this goes. The galaxy's 3 greatest military powers watched helplessly as one human woman continued her impossible journey, leaving them with more questions than answers. The great amphitheater of the Nexus core had never seen such a gathering. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the curved seats that rose in circles around the central platform. The massive dome above them showed stars and nebulae, creating the feeling of floating in space itself. Captain Kate Miller stood alone in the center, a small human figure surrounded by the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. Her ship, the Elbow of Fate, hung motionless outside the station's shields, its hull shifting colors like oil on water. In the front rows sat the most important beings alive. Admiral Fletcher represented the human colonies, though even he looked confused about Kate's mission. The tall, crystal-like ethereal council members whispered in their musical language. The mechanical representatives of the syndicate sat perfectly still, their metal bodies gleaming under the lights. High above them all, on a platform that seemed to float in mid-air, sat the Grand Council. These ancient beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, maintaining peace through careful order and precise laws. Captain Miller, the chief counselor's voice boomed through the amphitheater. You have traveled far to reach us. You have demonstrated abilities that our greatest scientists cannot explain. Speak now and tell us what you want. Kate looked around at the thousands of faces watching her. Some showed curiosity, others fear, and many displayed the cold calculation of those trying to solve a puzzle. Honored counselors, representatives of the galaxy, Kate began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. I come here not to make demands or threats. I come to show you something you have never seen before. Behind her, massive screens flickered to life, showing images of Earth. The blue and green planet rotated slowly as scenes of human life played across the displays. Cities bustling with activity, children playing in parks, artists creating impossible sculptures that seemed to defy gravity. For 3 million years, your civilizations have grown and prospered, Kate continued. You built perfect societies with perfect rules. Your mathematics are flawless, your engineering is precise, your logic is unbreakable. The ethereal representative leaned forward, his crystalline features catching the light. And this displeases you, human? Kate smiled. Not at all. Your achievements are wonderful. But somewhere along the way, you reached a ceiling. A limit to what perfect systems can accomplish. She gestured to the screens, which now showed human history. Wars that led to peace, accidents that became discoveries, mistakes that opened new possibilities. Humans are different, Kate said. We embrace chaos. We make errors that somehow work out better than careful plans. We take risks that your computers would call stupid, and we succeed because we don't know we're supposed to fail. A syndicate representative stood, his mechanical voice echoing through the chamber. Captain Miller, randomness cannot be superior to logic. Chaos leads to destruction. Does it? Kate asked. The screens changed again, showing the recent encounters with the 3 fleets. When your ships attacked mine, what happened? Admiral Fletcher shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Your vessel avoided our weapons through means we cannot understand. I didn't avoid them, Kate corrected. I simply asked reality a question. What if missing was more interesting than hitting? And reality decided to try something new. Murmurs rippled through the audience. The idea of asking reality questions instead of demanding answers was completely foreign to their way of thinking. The chief counselor raised his hand for silence. Captain Miller, you speak of impossibilities as if they were simple choices. How can this be? Kate walked closer to the platform, looking up at the ancient leader. Counselor, when human children play, they constantly ask what-if questions. What if gravity worked sideways? What if time ran backward? What if impossible things were just really, really unlikely? The screens now showed the elbow of fate being built in Earth's secret facilities. Scientists and engineers working alongside artists and poets, combining logic with imagination in ways that made no sense but somehow worked. The ship I pilot isn't just advanced technology, Kate explained. It's the physical form of human curiosity. Every time we wonder if something impossible might be possible, we make it a little more likely to happen. An ethereal counselor spoke, her voice like wind chimes. But surely there are limits. Laws that cannot be broken. Kate nodded. Yes, there are laws. But humans have never been good at reading the fine print. We look at a law that says impossible, and we ask impossible for who? She pointed to her ship visible through the dome above. The elbow of fate doesn't break the laws of physics. It asks them to be more flexible. And surprisingly often, they agree. The chief counselor stood, his ancient form impressive even at a distance. Captain Miller, assume we believe what you say. What do you want from us? Kate took a deep breath. This was the moment everything depended on. I want to solve the Void Plague. Gasps echoed through the amphitheater. The Void Plague had consumed 17 star systems over the past 1,000 years. It was a growing sphere of pure entropy that destroyed everything it touched. The galaxy's greatest minds had tried to stop it and failed. The plague cannot be stopped, the syndicate representative stated. We have tried every logical approach. Nothing works. That's exactly the problem, Kate replied. You've only tried logical approaches. The plague feeds on order, on structure, on everything that makes sense. Every time you attack it with logic, you give it more organized energy to consume. She smiled, the expression both confident and slightly crazy. But what if we fed it something completely illogical instead? What if we confused it so badly that it forgot how to exist? The amphitheater fell silent. Thousands of the galaxy's most brilliant minds tried to process what the human had just suggested. Finally, Admiral Fletcher spoke. Captain Miller, are you proposing to defeat pure entropy through confusion? Kate's grin widened. Admiral, I'm proposing to defeat it through something your civilizations have forgotten how to do. I'm going to try something that absolutely should not work." She looked around at the assembled crowd, seeing fear and hope warring in their faces. "And because I'm human, it just might work anyway." The space around the void plague writhed with pure destruction. 17 dead star systems floated in the growing sphere of entropy, their planets reduced to cosmic dust. The plague consumed everything it touched, turning order into chaos, matter into nothingness. Captain Kate Miller piloted the elbow of fate toward the edge of the deadly phenomenon, while behind her, the combined fleets of the galaxy watched from a safe distance. Every major power had gathered here, not to fight each other, but to witness what might be the most important moment in galactic history. "Kate, are you certain about this?" Admiral Fletcher's voice crackled over the communication channel. "Our best scientists have studied the plague for 1,000 years. Nothing can survive contact with it." Kate looked out at the swirling mass of destruction ahead. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, like watching the universe slowly eat itself. "Admiral, your scientists are right. Nothing logical can survive it. Good thing I'm not being logical." Behind her screens, she could see the massive fleets maintaining their distance. Hundreds of ships from the Hegemony, the Ethereal Collective, and the Mechanical Syndicate. Even the usually confident military commanders looked nervous. "Captain Miller," came the voice of Admiral ZYX, the ancient ethereal leader. "The plague feeds on structure and order. Your ship, despite its unusual properties, still follows certain physical laws. When it touches that phenomenon, those laws will be consumed." Kate smiled as she adjusted her course, heading straight for the heart of the plague. "Admiral ZYX, you're absolutely right. My ship does follow physical laws. But here's the thing about humans, we've never been very good at following rules." The elbow of fate crossed the boundary between normal space and the plague zone. Immediately, Kate felt the ship shudder as the destructive forces began working on its hull. The plague was trying to unmake the very atoms that held her vessel together. "Alice," Kate said to her ship's AI, "remember what we talked about. The plague consumes order by being the ultimate form of disorder. But what if disorder could be disorderly about disorder?" "Kate, I must point out that what you're suggesting violates several fundamental principles of logic." "Perfect. Let's see what happens when we violate a few more." Through the ship's sensors, Kate could feel the plague pressing against them, trying to understand what the elbow of fate was. The destructive force was used to consuming ships that made sense, vessels built with logical engineering and predictable physics. But Kate's ship had been built on human principles. It was a machine that ran on possibility rather than certainty, powered by the kind of thinking that asked what if instead of what is. "The plague is confused," Alice reported. "It cannot determine what rules we follow, so it cannot consume those rules." Kate laughed, feeling the familiar rush of human intuition taking over. "Then let's confuse it some more." She reached out with her mind, connected to the ship through the neural interface, and began to think in the chaotic way that only humans could manage. She imagined the plague as a very large, very hungry creature that had been eating the same food for centuries. What would happen if someone offered it something completely different? What if, Kate whispered to the universe, instead of consuming order, the plague tried to consume its own hunger? The effect was immediate and impossible. The swirling mass of destruction around them began to slow, then stop, then reverse. The plague, which had spent a millennium devouring structure, suddenly turned its attention inward. "This is impossible," General Steele's mechanical voice came over the radio. "Entropy cannot consume entropy. It violates the laws of thermodynamics." "General," Kate replied calmly, "you're thinking like a machine. Sometimes the universe gets bored with its own laws and decides to try something new." What happened next would be studied by scientists for generations, though none of them would ever fully understand it. The void plague began eating itself, its own destructive nature turned inward through a paradox that existed only because Kate Miller believed it might be possible. Star by star, system by system, the consumed regions began to flicker back to life. Dead suns reignited as causality sorted itself out. Planets reformed from cosmic dust as time itself decided to run backward in localized areas. "How?" Admiral Fletcher whispered over the communication channel. Kate piloted her ship out of the shrinking plague zone, watching as the last traces of the ancient threat disappeared into the impossibility she had created. "Admiral, every human child knows the secret. When you can't solve a problem one way, you try it sideways. When sideways doesn't work, you try upside down. When that fails, you try doing it backward while standing on your head." The fleets behind her erupted in celebration. 17 star systems had been restored to life, their civilizations saved by an approach that no rational mind could have conceived. Captain Miller, the chief counselor's voice came from the Nexus core, what you have accomplished here changes everything. The galaxy owes humanity a debt we can never repay. Kate smiled as she set course for Earth, where her sister Lucy was probably still worrying about her crazy older sister who took impossible risks. Counselor, we don't want payment. We just want to be part of the conversation. Over the following weeks, the Galactic Council voted unanimously to establish the Human Wildcard Initiative. Humanity would not be conquered or controlled, but welcomed as partners. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the most powerful weapon wasn't the biggest gun or the smartest computer. Sometimes it was just a species crazy enough to ask, what if the impossible was just really, really unlikely? As the elbow of fate approached Earth's solar system, Kate felt the ship's hull shimmering with satisfaction. They had proven that human chaos could accomplish what alien order could not. Ready to go home and explain this to the politicians? Alice asked. Kate grinned, thinking about the impossible conversations ahead. Alice, after convincing entropy to eat itself, how hard could explaining it to Congress be? The ship's laughter mixed with her own as they headed home, carrying the news that humanity had found its place among the stars not through conquest, but through the simple human belief that impossible things just needed someone willing to try them. And in the vast galaxy around them, ancient civilizations began to remember what they had forgotten, that sometimes the best solutions came not from perfect logic, but from the courage to ask what if.